So preparing to print, you have to soak your paper. So printmaking paper has something called sizing in it to keep the paper pulp fibers from falling apart. It's kind of like a glue that's inside of the paper that keeps it and holds it together. And to wet the paper, printmaking paper needs to be wet, at least for this intaglio method, to be able to soften it enough to be able to be pushed into the grooves of the plate when you run it through the press. So what you'll need is either a tub like this, a tub that just can hold some water and fits your paper easily inside. And if it's a little bit too small, like this one, it's still okay because it'll be limp and kind of sits in the water okay. Over here I have this tray that I got from Target. I think it's like a tray for crafts and stuff for food. So I have a little bit of water inside and it fits my paper pretty good. I'm just gonna soak one, but if you're gonna be, I'm just gonna be proofing my plate, so I'm gonna just soak one sheet. Make sure it's submerged and has no air bubbles underneath, so it just needs to be soaking at the very least 15 minutes. So, but this is also a good tray. I mean, if you don't have a tray like that, you could use a storage bin that's large enough for your prints. So again, this is also a good size. It just kind of sits in the water. So the next thing that you want to do, so if you're going to be doing a couple prints, it's okay to soak the paper for, say, 5 hours, but by the end of that work day, you want to take it out and blot it on a towel. So you could have a towel laying somewhere else, but right now I'm just gonna set up what you'll need. So you'll have a section or a place to put your clean paper somewhere on the side, and how to set up. Remember I said that you want to keep this leftover piece of Mylar as your inking slab or inking station. Usually it's a glass piece of glass that you could ink off of. But this you don't quite really need right now, but it's just easy to clean up this way. So that would be like where you want to put your ink. But since you have these little cups, you don't really have to do that. So this is a tarlatan that I gave you. So this is a stiffened, kind of like cheesecloth with starch in it, so it's stiff. How you can tear it is basically just like that. So for your first project, you just need maybe something like this size, maybe even smaller if you want. But when you're going to be inking, it'll be in a puff ball that's smooth, not wrinkled. But anyway, you need a piece of tarlatan about this size. And also as well, to prepare some sheets of newsprint. So I have a few sheets of newsprint that I'm gonna prepare just to help me wipe when I'm kind of half done. So I'm gonna prepare cutting this into little squares. You could use scissors if you want, but I'm just gonna cut it, I guess, like 2 inches by 2 by 2 maybe. So I'm just making little pieces of kind of like tissue paper to help me wipe clean the face of my plate. So I'm just gonna prepare some to have. doesn't have to be perfect. I'll show you later. Maybe you could even use scissors. It's easier maybe. So these are going to be used to wipe my plate. Like wipe my plate later a little bit clean. So you'll need these little squares of newsprint. So I'm just going to cut this up. I have a couple here, but cut up a little stack so you don't have to cut anymore. So basically cut up a bunch of these and cut them up as you need them, or just prepare. This was 3 sheets of newsprint that I'm going to cut up into squares. So I have already here some pieces. I don't have, let's see, so I also gave you some squares of little pieces of cardboard that were cut into cubes or squares. So those are used to apply ink to your plate. So I don't have one of those little sort of food containers of ink. This is the Akua ink that I split up for all of you. I didn't grab black, but I do have blue. So I'm gonna just use this blue as my demo. But usually when you're doing inking up your plate, you're going to put it on your inking slab, but you don't quite need to do that. So different inks have different consistencies. So some of your inks are going to separate. So you'll see it look like oil on the surface and then all the pigments on the bottom. You can't really see maybe that, but sometimes there's a separation between the pigment and what's suspending the pigment. So it separates. What you want to do is take your palette knife or like a little stick or something and mix it. Mix it until it's even and smooth. Like again, some of the black ink may not have separated, but sometimes they do separate. So that is for you to, you need to mix it up. So you don't want to put the oily ink inside your plate. You want to be able to mix this pigment up. So this is a water soluble ink. It's not oil based. I mean, it is made out of different materials, has a soy base to it, but it's not oil. So it does not dry like usual oil-based ink. It dries by oxidation or by air. So I'm just mixing this up. You have those little cups that I made for you, and then usually you have like a little ink here. Later on for the next project, we'll be using multiple colors, so you could put little, it's sort of like using this as your palette. So I'm going to use this plate as an example and show you my proof later. But so you can't really see what's happening if your table is dark. So what I'd like to do is what you can do is line your table with the newspaper, and then you can put a piece of newsprint on top of your newspaper, so then you can see exactly what you're doing. You can tape this if you want. This is just an example of how to, so if you have newspaper, line your table with newspaper, just a little bit, just to cover the surface of this amount of area. I'm going to, I don't have any of my cardboard pieces, but this is a Bondo scraper I have. You have the cardboard piece in place of this, but so your cardboard pieces are this size or this size. You'll take your ink that you mixed, and you want to get it inside the grooves. Of your dry point. So this ink is very dense. You don't need that much. You want to make sure that you touch all of the surface area, like all of the surfaces. So if you miss a place, even though it has no scratches on it, you can see it. It'll kind of cause like an area to be very, very white. You want everything to have a little bit of ink on top. So when you do wipe it, so I should have gloves on, but I will keep my hands clean. So with your tarlatan, you want to make it into a ball like this, kind of like a puff ball for your face, so it's smooth. You don't want to be using this side to wipe, because it's going to leave a lot of scratch marks. So I'm going to maybe protect my hand. In circular motion, I'm just going to wipe this. And maybe if you want to put on a dirty shirt so you won't get ink all over yourself. Even though it's washable with soapy water, it stains. So I am going to, so this is kind of like the amount you have. This is a good amount to have. So there's not a lot of, there's no goopy ink. It's just enough ink on the surface. Then you'll take these squares and wipe this. Maybe. You could kind of see that things are appearing, right? So